Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up during inflation, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, how to get 30, how to get 20, 20, 20, how to get 20, 20, how to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold!
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 up front for 3 months plus taxes and fees. Promo rate for new customers for limited time. Unlimited more than 40 gigabytes per month. Slows full terms at mintmobile.com.
How do you feel great on vacation? Like really good? Easy. You go to Aruba. You'll spend your time relaxing on cool white sand beaches and floating in healing blue water. You'll immerse yourself in natural wonder and find your center on an island where things move at your speed. You won't just feel great, you'll feel relaxed, renewed, and ready for life. That's the Aruba effect. Plan your trip at aruba.com.
On the last episode, I talked to a pediatric orthopedic surgeon about the most common reasons that parents worry about the weird ways their kids walk. There are about 1 million things that parents worry about in terms of their kids' bones and orthopedic issues, but those aren't the same things that bone doctors worry about. Dr. Reid Nichols worries about the bad things that can happen to a kid's skeleton, especially the ones that are easy to prevent if you catch them early. We talked about swaddling and screening for hip dysplasia in babies that can lead to needing a hip replacement at a young age in the bonus episode. Beside walking funny and preventing hip dysplasia, pediatric orthopedic surgeon Dr. Nichols from Nemours Children's Health in Wilmington, Delaware, wanted to share a few more of the most important things you can do to raise kids with strong bones from her unique vantage point. Remember, she cuts people open to fix their bones. She sees the consequences of poor bone health every day. She shares her pearls next. I'm Dr. Wendy Hunter, and I'm the pediatrician next door. I'm that doctor friend you call for practical advice about your kid's health. I mix the science of medicine with the reality of parenting. You would think that pediatric orthopedics doctor Reid Nichols just fixes broken bones, but doctors like her think about how to prevent kids from needing to see her in the first place. Here is her advice about how we can all have stronger bones.
I'm a huge advocate for bone health. I think that, it's really hard in, an orthopedic clinic that's relatively busy to really hammer this home. But our kids need to move. And they need to move for many reasons: psychological, welfare, physical welfare, healthy bodies, healthy minds, but also healthy bones. So weight-bearing activities help the body break down the bones and rebuild them so they're stronger. By 18 years of age, we have achieved 90% of our peak bone mass. So what that means is that we need to do everything we can in those first 18 years to move, to get vitamin D, to get calcium, to be healthy weights, to do all of those things so that we can, prevent fragility, meaning like the old people fractures when we are older. Now, genetics can play a role in that. There are certain chronic diseases that can play a role in that. There are, malabsorption problems, there's eating disorders. There are all sorts of things that can play in, or modifiable and non-modifiable. But what we need to be doing, all of us, whether you're the pediatrician, the orthopedic surgeon, it doesn't really matter who it is, but we need to be talking about why it's important to eat well and exercise.
What you're saying is really important, though, and I want you to expand on this, is that I think a lot of people picture bones as just this not changing skeleton. Like it's a living tissue that changes its density and changes the shape it's in. It's living. So how do you imagine that?
So there's resorption and there's rebuilding. So we want that, and there's a balance. So we don't want it to build too fast and never resorb, because that can be a huge problem, and that's happened since that's a disease. And then more commonly we want we talk about here's your third pearl for the day. Okay, osteoporosis begins basically in the womb. Without vitamin D, you can't absorb calcium. So that is super important. Now, we also put sunblock on our kids, so that will block. We can ingest vitamin D and we can have a transformation in our skin. And the transformation in our skin depends on your pigmentation. It depends a little bit on genetics. So those can weigh in. So that's the only vitamin that I say, hey, take a supplement. And if you forget it one day, take a little more the next day.
And you think calcium in general you get from your diet pretty easily if you're eating a good diet?
Yeah, and it's better absorbed from your diet. If we go back to the peak bone health, so what we want to do is get our bones as healthy as we can with, riding your bike and all these things, because that is what helps us do the break down the bone and then rebuild it.
How does this play a role in having broken bones, which we call fractures, and fracture healing?
I mean, I think it makes a big difference. Can you avoid fractures? So physical activity and calcium help you avoid fractures. I think that we don't want them to fracture so easily because, you can fracture into your growth plates. You can do it takes you out of fun and out of sports. It's annoying for the parents to miss work to bring them back in. And little falls, okay, maybe if you're 100 and you have a little fall, you break something, but you shouldn't be doing that when you're young.
Parents ask me all the time if their child inevitably has 2 broken bones in the same year because they're super active. What does that mean for their bones? And what do you say?
I say if they're super active and the activity matches the insult, they need to learn to fall better in some of the cases. But then I'm way into vitamin D. There are some kids, though, that fall like on an outstretched arm and they've broken their arm twice. That I actually might do PT just to teach, to get them stronger and to teach them how to fall better. The problem with the peak bone mass is once you get up there, the highest level you get is around 18, and then you precipitously start dropping down. And women drop down faster because we hit menopause. And then, so if we don't get that high level, we could really be sad when we're older. So we don't want to be sad when we're older. So get off the iPad. And also in your posture, if the kids are on the iPad all the time, have them sit up straight. Don't do their homework always in bed, crouched over. Think about their posture. Mm-hmm. Think about having them sit up straight at the dinner table, that kind of stuff.
So you just said it's okay to nag your kids about their posture.
Oh, 100%. And I always tell the boys, I'm going to put them in a bra with a broomstick behind their back. But posture is everything for all of us. We're on our stupid phones all the time because we have to be. I yell at my daughter all the time. She's 13. Get off the phone. Get off the phone. But wait a minute. Who else is on the phone? Me. So really work on that, especially when you're at the computer. Best body mechanics you can. Stand up a little bit. Sit down. Your kids can do the same thing. All it takes is a box on top of the table, put their computer on top of that, then they can have a standing desk.
My computer is on top of a box right now. Thanks.
And here's another thing. If they really want to play games, if you're like, I have work to do myself, put them on a balance ball. Put them on one of those big yoga balls watching TV. They have to use their posture. Play all their video games on a balance ball. Then they're moving and they're shifting, weight shifting, and they have to balance. And you can't eat as well sitting on a balance ball versus sitting on your bed or sitting in the couch. So
you're not mindlessly snacking. These are great, realistic tips. A child's skeletal structure is distinctly different from an adult, and it gives parents an opportunity to make a huge impact on the rest of a child's life, just as we talked about. The other thing that is very interesting is that since kids are still growing, they have growth plates. When adults are injured or if they have pain from repetitive tasks, they get inflammation and pain in their tendons. We call that tendinitis. But when kids overuse their body, they have pain in a part of their body that is more prone to injury than tendons, and that is their growth plates. There are several conditions that can only happen to kids who have open growth plates. And what's weird is that these injuries that are from repetitive use don't typically have lasting consequences. 2 that we talked about are Osgood-Schlatter, which is pain in the growth plate on the front of a kid's long leg bone just below the knee, and pain in the growth plate of the heel. That's called Sever's apophysitis.
a couple of very common ones. We'll talk about probably the two most common would be Osgood-Schlatter, which has a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad name, but it's painful, but it's again, it's okay. You can get, so that's on the front of the knee. So interesting, the bones have two kinds of growth plates. One allows for big attachments like for the patellar tendon or the Achilles tendon. Those are called an apophysis. So that, if you felt the front of your shin bone, you might feel a bump. When you're a kid and you have that bump, behind that bump is cartilage. And cartilage is weaker than bone. And as that apophysis is growing and maturing, you see, if you were looking at an x-ray, you start seeing these weird pieces of bone. So it's beginning to, what we call ossify, to turn into bone. When they're tight, and because bones grow faster than your muscles do, so they may get really tight in their quadriceps or their hamstrings, and they contract hard against that. Let's use the patellar, the quadriceps. It gets very tight, and it contracts that patellar tendon, and it pulls on that little bump in the front of your shin bone. Behind that little bump in the front, which is becoming bone, there's that cartilage, and there's a shear force there. And so that can become incredibly painful. So the things that we do, we ice it, we stretch, we take vitamin D, because I think that helps with both inflammatory phase and also making sure that bone heals well. And then if we need rest, we use it. If it's just a little bit nagging, it doesn't hurt to continue your activity while you continue to stretch. And you can use a foam roller, you can do a whole bunch of things, and you can go to physical therapy. Osgood-Schlatter, you can Google that one. So that concept is the same as the heel. If you look at the heel, I have a good one for you. Dr. Hunter, do you remember the name of the family in growing pains?
Oh my God, their name was the Severs.
It was. Is that the best?
Wow, that's a fun
fact. That's my fourth pearl of the day. Fun fact. They had to have known that Severs is the same issue of your heel. We talk about toe walking a lot. I mean, come on. Spend a day outside. Your muscles get tight too, especially your calf muscles. So when those calf muscles pull through that heel, it does the same thing. If you look at the side view of the heel on an x-ray when they're like 9, you start seeing this weird half moon shape around the heel. You're like, what the heck is that? And it's all fragmented looking. So if you go to an adult ER and you've been complaining of heel pain, they'll be like, there might be a fracture.
Because there is a normal area there in a kid that's not ossified yet. It's made of cartilage. You can't see it on the x-ray and it looks like a break.
Yep. So it's becoming ossified, so little bony pieces are happening. So every time that calf muscle contracts, it pulls on the cartilage. Now, I have to break it to you. We are more mature, and we don't have growth plates anymore, even though I act very immature. I don't have a growth plate. I'm really old. So I get tendinitis, and that hurts too. I could get patellar tendinitis instead of Osgood-Schlatter, or I could get Achilles tendinitis or rupture instead of Severs.
Do kids get tendinitis when their growth plates are open?
They do, but not as commonly as we think. So, typically we see this kind of Severs.
They get apophysitis, is what you're saying.
Yes, they get apophysitis. So I said there are two kinds of growth plates. There are also epiphyses. So those are the things at the end of long bones that make them grow longer. So the apophysis is not one we talk about all the time, but interesting, if you have a soccer player, especially, they can sometimes get around right where your pants sit, that's your ilium. They can get that whole ridge there can be a pretty tender apophysis because muscles attach there too. And you can get, that can be very irritated. In the elbow with gymnasts, you can see that same thing.
Baseball players, pitchers.
Yep. So we have to be really careful about that. Now, if we want to talk about pitchers, there is a reason, parents, there is a reason for pitch counts. You are not doing your child any favors by avoiding those pitch counts. They are for a reason. They have open growth plates that can be very damaged by too much stress. I had once unfortunately, somebody coming in telling me that their 6th grader was being encouraged to lift heavy weights and they had a wall of fame, that should be a wall of shame. These young kids, especially they were trying to get the boys to look big. If you don't have enough testosterone, you're not going to look big. And all you're going to do is damage your growth plates. And that can make a lifelong problem. So it's not appropriate for them to be doing heavy weights.
And you're talking about 11, 12, 13-ish? Because like by 15, 16, you've got some testosterone you can lift.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then your growth plates are beginning to close. And I think that's a more reasonable time.
So vitamin D, healthy, well-rounded diet, weight-bearing exercise, appropriate exercise for the age. Anything else that is important for developing healthy bones in your children?
Yes, listening to their bodies. So if you are a really, you've got your child in travel, they're playing rec, they're playing maybe 2 travel
Club,
teams.
yeah, all of it.
Think about their mental well-being and their physical well-being. If they're beginning to show signs of lots of injuries, you need to reassess what you're doing. Maybe they need to switch to a different sport, swimming, take a break. But I think you need to really listen to all of those things. Not, are they manifesting injury because they're really feeling overwhelmed, or if you can't find a reason for their injury or soreness, or if they are beginning to have many more overuse injuries, you really have to slow down.
What are the things that all kids should do to create strong bones from the perspective of a doctor who fixes bone problems every day? She says take a vitamin D supplement, get weight-bearing exercise, and use your skeleton. That's how you make bones strong. Eat calcium-rich foods, and take a break from your primary sport. These are all things you've heard on this show before. Taking a break, finding time to play, and eating well are good for your kids, and these things are also good for you. For more from the Pediatrician Next Door, find me on the web at pediatriciannextdoorpodcast.com. If you've got a question about the weird things kids do, send an email to hello@pediatriciannextdoorpodcast.com for a chance to hear your voice on the show. I'm Dr. Wendy Hunter, and I'm the Pediatrician Next Door. This show is produced by Red Rock Music. Make sure to subscribe and leave a review wherever it is you're listening. I'll be back next time with more.